Welcome back to Weisspool Woodworks, and this is working on my window sash restoration project here for the house, and I'm grooving the sashes for the weather strip. This is the quick diagram that I drew up that represents the slot and the edge, and then down here you can see at the check rail there's a three-step machining process, one for the upper sash and two for the lower sash. They get these steps in here that will allow the weather strip to be nailed in and interact with each other in the finished product. So the first thing I want to touch base on is the weather strip in the sides. This is what the material looks like. It will get nailed through this flange to the jamb. This tongue will stick out into the opening and it will mate up with, see if I can hold all this at one time, this groove right here. So you can kind of see how that's going to mate in there. That's the bottom of the sash, and it's a little different, but anyways, you get the idea. That's just put in with a table saw blade, riding the sash against the fence. Nothing spectacular, but that's how that groove gets put in on three sides of both sashes. Okay, so this is after the parts have been machined. You can kind of see a profile view of how they made up. It's not quite as pretty looking as my drawing, but that's reality. And so I will go over each component now, but I just want to kind of give you a quick glimpse of the finished product before we start the individual pieces and how I got there. Now, this is the upper sash, and it gets the J hook, which looks like that if it comes into focus. There we go. And that will just get nailed down just like it is. There's a little bit of a lip here, which gives me some positive registration. Now, what you can see here is that I've run out of lip. There's no lip here. And that shows you the inconsistency of this sash. Part of it might be I stripped and scraped the wood a little harder, sanded a little harder, and I think a lot of it just boils down to the inconsistency of the original construction used behind the sashes. But that's how that's done. I just set it up on a table saw, just like this, and ripped it down. Nothing real high tech, but that's the upper sash check rail and how I machined that part that you see right here. All right, this is the lower sash, and it actually has the tongue on it, and this is what it's going to look like when it's installed. And where my finger's touching the metal is where it would be tacked down, and then this secondary groove in there gives clearance for the other side of that J hook if it'll ever come into focus. I can't do this all in one. I need a third arm. Anyways, so that's kind of a basic overview of how that works and why there's a double step that's been machined into that check rail on the lower sash. So I'm going to pause this real quick, and then I'm going to show you how I actually machined that. Okay, so this is how I machined it. I basically took this is just a normal router, pushed through a piece of plywood, got some plywood scrap blocking it up off the table, and then this bottom piece here is my fence that you can see the sash is riding on right here, and then this is just pushed back a little bit so it doesn't touch the sash. But basically you just adjust your router so that it goes in and out this way, and then you just adjust it up and down, and it's a two-pass deal. I set it up once to cut this notch right here, and then another one for this upper notch, which is where the router bit, that was my second pass, and you can see where it's cut in there on that stop right there. So that's how that's done. It's pretty slick little deal. Climb cut, and it keeps the edge from ripping out. Not a real big deal. Just got to make sure your hands stay clear of this, and it's really not pulling. It's a very easy cut. It's not cutting very much material, so it's pretty safe. Anyways, I just recommend that if you're doing something like this, you have plenty of table to set the sash on, because if it's dangling off a table and wants to tilt back like this or tilt down like that, it makes it much harder to control the cut. And I'll just get a quick zoom out. You know, I've got like a It's basically about 3 feet of fence on both sides of the router, which gives me plenty of balance leading in and then plenty of balance leading out of the cut. And then I waxed up the rail so it runs real smooth. But anyways, that's how I machine the weather stripping for the check rail and the sides and top and bottom of the overall window unit. I hope that's useful to anybody that's looking to do this. They're very easy, inexpensive methods. You just got to have some patience. There's nothing special about that router bit. It's just a normal straight cutting router bit. It does not even have a very good tip for cutting the face of the check rail. So, but it gets the job done. And none of the machine surfaces that we're producing in these cuts will actually show in the finished product, because it will either be blocked by metal or it'll just be impossible to view in person, unless you're on the outside of the window looking in. Potentially there might be a little bit you see, but in the grand scheme of things, not a big deal. Put a coat of paint on it before you put the metal on, as far as primer anyways, and you're good to go. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed it and hope it's useful to somebody out there. Thanks for watching.